Hello, and welcome to another brand new episode of Dingers and Stingers, the podcast that is all about MLB free agency, even though it only has one free agent on it. A couple of married guys in here. Only one of us is ready to sign, and I'm looking for a long-term deal. So if you know anybody out there who's looking to sign, let's hear it. But we are not going to be talking about me signing anywhere today. We're going to be talking about a lot of other players in the MLB who are going to be signing in places this year.
That'll be next week's episode.
Yeah, next week we'll talk about where I'm going to sign and who with.
How old are you, Dallas?
I am 30, so I'm just on the the edge of
I could go 7. I'm not going to go more than 7 years on a contract for you.
That's pretty okay, considering me as a person in comparison to what a baseball player is. That's a pretty generous. You think I've got 5 good years left? That's pretty good. I'll take that.
Drew's giving you a low AAV though.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Not going to break the bank.
Yeah, void years. At the end, I get it. But we are going to talk about MLB players who are free agents in this episode, and we're going to talk about where they might sign, who they are, what they got going for us. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to do Dingers and Stingers at the end, so you'll hear from us on that. But first, we wanted to real quick touch on MLB Awards, the awards that we're at all up in the air, really, have been given out as of our recording today. So just wanted to get any reactions that you guys had to any of the awards that have been given out so far, and who won them and what you guys think.
Yeah, shout out the winners. We got Rookie of the Year. National League was Drake Baldwin. American League was Nick Kurtz. Both of them well-deserved. No real surprise. We had Managers of the Year yesterday. I don't think anyone really cares about those ones. Mildly interesting that it was the same 2 winners as last year, which I don't think has ever happened. It's more of a fun fact than anything else. And then tonight, the Cy Young Awards were announced. Skeens won the National League Award unanimously, and then Tarek Skubal got 26 out of 30 first-place votes in the American League to beat Garrett Crochet, who got the other 4, and then all of the other second-place votes. So they kind of split that. And I think the writers got it all right for this one. Quick shout-out to Roman Anthony for placing 3rd in Rookie of the Year, despite only playing in 71 games. Great year from him. Look forward to big things. And then, Garrett Crochet, I can't speak highly enough of him for the year he had after the trade and the contract extension. He just has been everything we would have wanted from him. Even got some first place votes. I found it interesting. 2 out of the 4 first place votes that he got were from the Yankees writers, and I can see why. He dominated them this year every time he played them. So just a great year from him. And then I just wanted to point out one stat I saw on Twitter that I thought was interesting. I think Skubal definitely should have won this award. His stats were better in pretty much every category. Crochet had more strikeouts, but then against top 10 lineups this year, Crochet pitched 83 in a third innings, and Skubal pitched 61 in a third inning. So Crochet had a bigger sample size and had a better ERA by about a 1.5 and a better OPS given up by about 100. So when it really mattered, when we were playing the best of the best teams, Crochet really stepped up, and I'm glad he got this recognition. And also shout out Aroldis Chapman for getting some 5th place votes and finishing in 7th as a reliever. That's pretty cool. And that's, it's a little bit fan corner of me, but I'm going to talk about the Red Sox who placed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
The Padres got a platinum glove.
That's right. As is the right. And let me ask you this about Cy Young, because it feels like, even though he didn't, Skeens last year, if he had been called up sooner, he might have. And so are we in a time right now where it kind of like feels like both leagues have a guy who it's kind of like the Cy Young is his to lose almost every year, providing health? Is that where we are, and does that feel strange?
I think it is where we are. Now, is anyone going to be shocked if Garrett Crochet wins the American League Cy Young next year over Skubal? I don't think so. Or if Zach Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez, have another great year. Yamamoto, there's other guys, obviously. But I do think it's, you're going to look at Skubal in the American League and Skeens in the National League as the two best pitchers, and it is their award to lose. And I think that's kind of always how it is. There's ebbs and flows to that, but like there was a time when it was like, is the National League Cy Young going to be Max Scherzer, or is it going to be the field? Is it going to be Clayton Kershaw, or is it going to be the field? And that's how it's felt at various points. So it is cool. We're kind of in an era of like all-time great pitching, and for Paul Skeens to come up. I mean, 2 years ago he was pitching in college. Last year came up, started the All-Star game, Rookie of the Year, third place in Cy Young, and then this year, from start to finish, was the Cy Young favorite. Started the All-Star game again, and ended up going home with the award. We'll have plenty of offseason to talk about this, but the Pirates absolutely have to do something about that. He is that meme of the like super fancy sports car sitting in the trailer park driveway. And I would prefer the Pirates try their best to sign people and make the team better. But if they're not going to do that, then they do have to consider trading him. And that really, really scares me, because whenever a superstar player like that is up for grabs, the usual suspects are the usual suspects, and he might end up on a team we don't like. So hopefully the Pirates can figure something out, but it's a real concern at this point.
Yep, no question. No question. We'd love to see him move to not somewhere that would make it hard for us to root for him, 100%. But okay, so let's move on to the main event here, and let's talk about these free agents. So those who are going to opt in have opted in. Those who are going to opt out have opted out. We know the field. It is set. There are some good names in this, at the top of this free agent field here. Some opportunity for some teams to really improve if they can bag one of these guys. So let's talk about some of these free agents and where we think they'll end up. We're going to spend most of the rest of the show on this. We have about 15 or so guys that we're going to go through here. We want to give a little bit of a rundown as to, what we think they'll fetch. What kind of player we see them as, and then we are going to have you guys also pick where you think they'll end up, and so where they'll end up signing. So, we're gonna have a lot of fun with this. It's gonna be a nice discussion to have on some great players. So let's go ahead and start at the top with, perhaps someone who was at the top of last year's free agent pool, which is a guy by the name of Kyle Tucker. He was traded last year. Many people look forward to his 2026 free agency, but he didn't have to wait to go to a different team. He went to the Cubs from Houston. So now he is a free agent, though. And now he'll get to sign where he wants. So Drew, take us through Kyle Tucker and let's talk about him for a little bit.
Yeah, Kyle Tucker, I mean, without a doubt, I think is going to make the most money of anyone in this year's free agent class. He is a star outfielder, despite having a down second half with the Cubs this year, like a lot of their team did. He still came home with the Silver Slugger Award. He's going to be 29 next year, I believe. And he's, one of the best five-tool type players in baseball right now. So he's certainly going to make a lot of money. I don't know if it's going to get into that $500 million territory that we kind of maybe thought last year after Juan Soto got his massive deal because he did have the down second half. So I do think it'll be somewhere around 10 years, somewhere between $400 and $500 million. And when you're getting a contract that big, there's only a handful of teams that are realistically going to give that to you. So that kind of limits his market. There are plenty of teams, though, that I would think would be interested. The Yankees, I expect, will check in with Cody Bellinger being a free agent. They have an opening in the outfield. The Blue Jays, coming off a Game 7 loss in the World Series, have money to spend. They've been trying to give it away for a long time. Maybe finally someone will take them a little more seriously. He could return to the Cubs, of course, because that'll be a big loss for them if he does depart. And then the Giants, another team that has tried for a long time to get that big fish in free agency, haven't been able to do it, but I expect them to check in. Ultimately, this is going to really upset me if it happens. It's going to upset a lot of baseball fans if this happens. But I kind of expect him to end up with the Dodgers because as much as they have already spent so much money and as much as they dominated the playoffs and ended up winning the World Series now back-to-back years, they have money coming off the books. They have like close to $90 million coming off the books this year on guys who weren't even big parts of their team necessarily. So they have money to spend, obviously make a lot of money winning a World Series. They're going to check in on him for sure. And I kind of expect he might want to just go to a team that is already clearly playoff bound.
It has been the way for top free agents in the last few years when they can choose where they go. They're at the top of almost everybody's list, for reasons that make sense. If you're thinking about being a player who wants to have a legacy and who wants to have a lot of hardware to boast about at the end of your career, if that's important to you, playing in meaningful games, if that's important to you, then they're understandably at the top of a lot of people's lists when they can choose where they go. So, it would just be another in a line of those for sure. Okay, so Matt, where do you think Kyle Tucker ends up? Let's have your prediction here.
Yeah, I've got him going to the Giants. I do think he comes out west, and the Giants have been so aggressive throwing money at all the top superstars in the last few years of free agency. I mean, I knew they threw, bags of cash at Aaron Judge. They thought they had him. I'm pretty sure it's the Giants who signed Arson Judge. And the Giants want to do the same with Trey Turner. So I think they'll be willing. And, they just seem so willing to take their swings, even if it's a miss at this point. But at some point, one of them's going to hit, right? At some point, someone's going to love the tradition of San Francisco Giants baseball. Why not Kyle Tucker? Why not have a little bit of hope?
Right. Yeah, I would love to see some teams in the NL West arm themselves this offseason for sure. Okay, so there you go. That's Kyle Tucker. We have Dodgers for Drew and Giants for Matt. So we'll keep an eye on that. Next guy up is Alex Bregman. And Matt, take us through some deets on Bregman, and then we'll have some predictions about who could be involved and then who ultimately gets him.
Yeah. So with Bregman, I do think, I went back and forth on who I thought he would even have interest in. Obviously, last year he started off really good. He had a really great start to the year. He was looking like potentially Boston's best hitter. He got hurt for a little while, which is kind of part of the reason Marcelo Meyer came up. I think there's going to be a lot of teams interested in his services. I think he's going to mostly have a market of playoff-ready teams. And a lot of teams can use a third baseman. And I think he probably has positional flexibility, but he'll be playing third base. You look at teams like the Tigers who really didn't have much to say happening at third base. You look at the Mariners who maybe are going to lose Eugenio Suarez. Teams like the Mets, Cubs, some of these teams, they have these younger guys playing there who definitely could step up. At the end of the day, I think Bregman returns to the Red Sox. I think the Red Sox had such a, for how disappointing, if you want to use that word, it all ended. I think they had such an exciting season with such an exciting young talent pool coming up to the big leagues. He has the chance to be grandpa for this like young, flashy, hot team. And like, what an awesome place to be is playing for the Red Sox, getting paid oodles of money to basically, again, be the grandpa of this roster that's going to probably continue to be on the rise. Your spot at third is pretty secure given health. And yeah, he just gets to continue being a really solid middle of the lineup bat. I think he sticks it out with the Red Sox, personally.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. The Red Sox really can't afford to lose him. Obviously, if he signs elsewhere, there are things they can do, but like what he did for their lineup and what he did for their clubhouse, I think can't really be quantified. And I don't think the Red Sox have much of a choice but to give him the best deal. I hope, as a Red Sox fan, I hope they can kind of get that done early and then I can kind of relax and see how the rest of the offseason plays out. But I do think that the Red Sox know that they need him and they know what they have in him and will pony up to get it done. The one concern would be if it does turn into a crazy bidding war and teams like the Phillies or the Mets are involved, I don't expect the Red Sox to really push beyond their comfort zone too much for him, which would be a bummer, but I don't really anticipate that happening. So I think in the end, he does end up back in Boston.
All right. So that is Alex Bregman, Red Sox for both of you. Let's move on to the next guy, Beau Bichette. Drew, what's the deal with Beau Bichette?
Yeah, Bichette, he's one of the more notable names in free agency. He is coming off a big World Series where, he returned after missing some time with an injury and showed up for the Blue Jays, and I think that earned him a lot of goodwill. He had a bad 2024 where he missed a lot of time. He was pretty good for most of 2025 and then was hurt again, and so I think him returning in the World Series will put some people at ease. I expect him to get quite a big payday because he's only 28 years old. He doesn't really play a strong shortstop defensively, so I'm not totally sure if he's going to really get a lot of attention as a shortstop in free agency. Maybe a team like Atlanta could hop in there because they just kind of need a shortstop. But otherwise, I think a lot of teams will look at him as maybe a second baseman or a third baseman, in which case a lot of the same teams we just talked about for Alex Bregman would also be in on Beau Bichette. I could see the Phillies, I could see the Tigers, I could see the Mariners being interested in him. I could see the Red Sox being interested in him. But not to be boring back-to-back picks, but I think in the end the Blue Jays do retain him because they got so close. He's been a part of their team. He's come up with Vlad. They've been two of their best players. They could both be Blue Jays for life. I think the Blue Jays have money to spend. I think they'll do it. I think they'll pony up and make sure that they've got their duo long term and try to avenge their Game 7 loss.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I think given what he did, and I think that it would be so short-sighted of the Blue Jays to just look at him and think that he's expendable. I'm not saying that's what you're saying they'll do, because obviously you predicted they'll take him or they'll get it back. But when I looked at like just everything, he's led the AL in hitting, like in hits, twice in the last few years, right? Like, and you look at the philosophy that they have on offense, and they want to flip bat to ball, and they want to make contact with the ball and play. He's like a top 2 or 3 dude at that skill, like at that skill set. And the defense, I mean, they showed he played second base for a good chunk of his return to the World Series. And he looks great at second base. I think he absolutely could pull off second base. So I think if they're willing to make him a cornerstone piece of their franchise offensively, the defensive stuff will figure itself out. But yeah, I mean, you talk about the Blue Jays like homegrown heroes, them locking in Bichette and Vladdy, I think just keeps that locker room whole, right? Like it's so funny we're having this conversation. I literally remember before the season started, that was my big blow against the Blue Jays. Was I was like, I just don't see how you have a winning locker room like this. Like I don't see the culture, being like this. And it turns out that's all they had, and they made it work. Like, it's crazy how much a season changed things. I have the Blue Jays retaining him. I just don't see a world where they're not willing to pony up as much as any other team at this point for him. And if all things are equal, I don't see why he would choose to leave.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. I agree with that. Absolutely. So there's Beau Bichette, and you both have Blue Jays for Beau Bichette. All right. So let's go to the next guy. Fromber Valdez is our next free agent. So Matt, give us some details on Fromber.
Yeah, Fromber is, he's the first pitcher we're going to be talking about here. He has been kind of a pillar of consistency. As long as I can pretty much remember being a baseball fan, he's been like pretty good. He's never the best, and he's never, in my experience as a baseball fan, been bad. He's always just been like, yeah, he's pretty good. He's always in the top 1-2 spots of that lineup down or in that rotation and for the Astros. I think people are going to be a little hesitant they'll at least want to like really get to know the person who is Fromber Valdez. Given some of the stuff that happened this year, given his, publicly seen incident with throwing at his own catcher, that's something that I think a lot of teams will probably want at least an answer for before they're willing to commit to a guy long term. So I don't know quite what the market looks like for a guy who's answering those questions in an off season. But I definitely think, you're talking about a guy who's going to be at the top of rotation. There's going to be a market. At the end of the day, there's going to be a market. Yeah, I mean, there's 1,000 teams. You could name any team, and you're like, yeah, they could probably use another good starting pitcher. But at the end of the day, I think, he's kind of got this past year, he's gained this like little villain vibe to him. He's kind of a bad guy. He comes from the Astros. I say keep it going. Send him to the Empire. He's going to be a Yankee. They need Garrett Cole insurance. Why not take it?
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I could see them doing it because, like what you said, every team could use a good starting pitcher, and especially if the dominoes of the offseason start to fall and the Yankees aren't getting other guys, they're going to want to throw money at someone. Why not Fromber Valdez? He's arguably the best pitcher that's available. I think there are some teams that could be more interested in him than others because he is not really a strikeout guy so much as he is a ground ball guy. And I think you're going to want to pair him with some infield defense. So I think a team like the Braves could make sense. The Cubs have great defense all around. They could make sense. But I'm going to go with a team you picked for Kyle Tucker, the San Francisco Giants, because I do think they're going to be wanting to spend some money. I think whatever clubhouse stuff is going on, in the end, I think any team is just going to be willing to kind of figure that out because he is such a good pitcher. And Logan Webb's the Giants' ace. He's a ground ball type of guy too. I think it could work well for them.
All right, there it is. So for Fromber Valdez, we have the Yankees and the Giants. All right. Next up, one of our favorite guys, Kyle Schwarber. So let's get some details and then see where he ends up.
Yeah, Kyle Schwarber, he's going to have the most, dependable power of anyone on the free agent market. And it's a really good market for if you want pop, if you're looking for that. There's plenty of guys, but I think he stands at the top. We're going to find out tomorrow if he finished second or third in National League MVP, but it's for sure one of those two. He's just an awesome player, and he's a DH only, so I guess that somewhat limits his market. I guess you could try to stick him in left field, but you can't really count on that to be much of anything. But there's been rumors of the Red Sox being interested in him as they look for more power. I could see any team that wants more power looking into him. I could see Matt's Padres looking in, depending on how much money they're willing to spend this offseason. A team like the Texas Rangers, kind of the same boat. They could use some more consistent pop in their lineup. I've seen fan fiction where people want him to go to the Cincinnati Reds, where he'd hit a ton of home runs. I don't necessarily see them ponying up that money.
That'll be fun.
And I'm going to do another boring pick because the Phillies are run by Dave Dombrowski. If Dombrowski wants his guy, he's going to get his guy. I think the Phillies want to keep Schwarber around more than any of their other free agents that are leaving, which they have a few others on this list. I think he's going to be the most important target. I think they're going to do whatever it takes to get him back, and he'll be back wearing the Philly pinstripes.
Yeah, I'll keep my answer short too. I think he ends up back with Phillies. I just see the Phillies' philosophy and mindset being they're already on the older side, and they came in as the NL's number 2 seed. Was it number 1, number 2? They were one of the higher seeds when it comes to their win-loss.
Yeah, number 2.
And you can maybe some people will see that keep running out the same thing is a bad thing. I don't know if the Phillies see it that way. I think that they really do believe that this is the group that can get it done, and they're just waiting for their year to break through. I think they try and run it back, and not to spoil future potential stuff with other free agents. We'll let each one stand on their own. I think Kyle Schwarber is at the top of their list as well. Like they got to bring this guy back. That lineup looks so much different without him in it.
All right. So both of you have Schwarber going back to Philadelphia. Let's go next to Cody Bellinger, a guy we're all familiar with here as well.
Yeah. Cody Bellinger is an interesting one. He kind of has some positional flexibility. He could play pretty much anywhere in the outfield. He's got experience at first base. He's a good bat, lefty bat. I think there's a lot of opportunity for him to go to a lot of different places. One team that I think I could see him going to that I just think would be really fun, and I think he fits the vibe. Like if you're just thinking about the vibe of the team, I like the fit. I'm going to go with the Mariners. This could be contingent on, how some of the other free agency plays out. But they're going to potentially need a first baseman. Their first baseman is currently a free agent. It is someone who they're going to need to figure out. And if not, they were rocking a Dominic Canzone in right field during the playoffs. No disrespect to Canzone. That's not like the type of guy that's going to strike fear into any playoff team here. And so I wonder, would they go out and make a play for a really good lefty bat? Obviously, Cal Raleigh switch hits, but a lot of their prominent bats this year outside of Naylor were righties. And so I could see them trying to get some more diversity in the lineup there.
Yeah, that'd be a really fun fit. I want to see the Mariners go back to their spending ways that they did, 10 to 12 years ago. Especially now that they came, 8 outs away from going to the World Series this year for the first time ever. So hopefully they have their foot on the gas. That'd be a really fun move for them. I think, you kind of nailed it. Like a lot of this offseason free agency, it's the same every year. There's a domino effect. I think Cody Bellinger's market is going to be affected by Kyle Tucker's market. I think teams are going to want to see where Kyle Tucker goes before they shift their focus to Cody Bellinger, who's just a worse version of Kyle Tucker, basically. And so any team I mentioned for Kyle Tucker, you could also mention here. But I kind of think similar to Kyle Schwarber, similar to Alex Bregman, similar to Beau Bichette, I think the Yankees really, their offseason would start off really poorly if they lose Cody Bellinger. Just like when they lost Juan Soto last year, really changed the trajectory of their offseason. So I think they're going to do what it takes to get him back. But any team that misses out on Kyle Tucker could feasibly go in for Cody Bellinger.
All right. Okay, so that's Bellinger. We have Yankees and Mariners for him. So next guy up is someone we're seeing for the first time in the major leagues, and that is another Japanese baseball star, Munitaka Murakami. So let us know the deal on him and where we think he ends up.
Yeah, Murakami this is going to be a off-season full of Japanese free agents, whether it's a lot of new ones, but at least one old friend is also on the free agent market. But this is kind of the most coveted, it seems, of the new batch. He is someone we saw in the World Baseball Classic. He is a absolute power bat. That's pretty much his value, it seems. The reports are that he's a third baseman, but he is such a bad fielder that realistically he will not be playing third base in the major leagues. It's either going to be first base or DH. He also strikes out a ton, which is not necessarily something that will translate to Major League Baseball, where there's some of the nastiest pitchers on every team. It's just, it never ends. It's relentless. But that being said, any team that needs some pop could be looking into him as like perhaps an option that might be cheaper than a Kyle Schwarber or a Pete Alonso or someone who's been more proven at the major league level. We'll kind of see what the market ends up being for him, because we thought Yamamoto would make a lot of money. We didn't necessarily think he would make $325 million or whatever. So you never know. With any Japanese player coming over, I'm tempted to just pick the Dodgers, because that seems to be their MO. They're a team that could afford to pay a guy who might suck at the major league level. I mean, he could sit on their bench or whatever, but I kind of don't think it'll be the Dodgers for him, just because she's not going to be much of a third baseman. Well, they have Freddie Freeman at first, and they have Shohei Ohtani at DH. So they really just, that's not a position of need for them. And I kind of think maybe their cross-state rivals, the San Diego Padres, will give them a look. And they've got an opening at first base. They don't have like a permanent DH situation right now, so they need some thump in their lineup. I could see them going after this guy and, making themselves relevant in the Japanese market again.
I'm not going to act like I wouldn't be happy if we signed him, because, you like to sign big names and see the potential. At the same time, I don't know, man. You don't know. He only had like a .09 batting average against pitches over like 93 miles an hour. I don't feel like watching Blake Snell strike him out 4 times a game for the next however many years. But hey, maybe I'll go not fun. I have the Dodgers, because they just did this with Hae-Sung Kim, obviously a different level of stardom. I don't know if they can really just throw him in the minors and get away with it. And at the same time, they are clearing a bunch of their depth pieces off of this bench and off of this team. And why not just one of these Japanese guys who wants to create Team Japan over in LA? Like his teammates are there. He's friends with people there. There is a world where there is a spot open at first base or third base within the next handful of years if he can kind of improve his glove. And then he's got the power bat. I mean, we've seen the Dodgers have patience with guys like Max Muncy, who that's kind of his whole thing, is he can't really hit except home runs, and he learned to take walks. He was a bad, defensive player who learned how to play serviceably. To me, there's kind of you could see the similarities between him and Muncy. I could see the Dodgers feeling like they have the luxury to be patient with him. So I'm going to take the Dodgers. I think, like you said, they've got a lot of money to spend coming off the books, and I think there's space for him on a team that has already shown interest in having the Japanese superstars there.
All right, so for Murakami, we have the Padres and the Dodgers. NL West getting busy so far. Let's see if it continues. Next guy up is Shota Imanaga.
Yeah, for Shota, I have a lot of interesting thoughts on him. I don't know if I'm going to go into everything, but I'm shocked that the Cubs wouldn't have made more of an effort to try and keep this from happening. They have had some struggles at the top of their rotation. Justin Steele has had the injury that kept him out basically this entire year. They had a lot of surprising performances. I mean, no one expected Matthew Boyd to turn into such a good pitcher for the majority of the season for them. But the one guy who was supposed to have been this kind of pillar of consistency there was Shota Imanaga. And he's not some guy who's going to blow you away with his, 101 mile per hour fastball, but he's just a guy who locates baseballs and lets, the defense behind him play. And boy, oh boy, what a defense do the Cubs have. And I feel like he fit perfectly there. It's pretty shocking to me that we've gotten to this point. But hey, that makes it fun for the rest of the league when guys surprisingly make it to free agency. A team that I could see taking a guy like this and really just needing a guy at the top of their rotation, almost anybody. I think the Blue Jays would be a really fun spot for him. They've shown interest in the Japanese superstars, and they've shown interest in some of the international players. And I mean, we talked about it. This is going to be what used to be just a team that was throwing money at people as kind of a cash grab is now a legitimate offer of hey, you can make a lot of money and be on a team competing for World Series. And not just that, he would be walking in and probably be the number one or number two. I mean, it depends on how they feel about Gausman going into this upcoming year, but he would be top of the rotation for them. So I think the Blue Jays make a lot of sense here. I think that it'd be cool. And I think he would make a lot of money.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see him make it to free agency. So kind of an unexpected name on a lot of lists. Similar with Fromber Valdez, a lot of teams could use a reliable left-handed starting pitcher. He's the type of guy that I could see the Angels going after because they always go after one of the randomly pretty big free agents and then get them because they do have money to spend. I could see the Mets going in because they need pitching more than maybe anyone. Well, they have those young guys, but they need more reliable innings. Maybe the Cubs in Imanaga can work something out that was just different than what they already had going on. But in the end, I do think it's going to be the Mets that make that signing.
Never a bad bet to bet on the Mets to outbid people. I'll say that. Good, not a bad bet there. Let's continue the pop discussion, the power discussion. Next guy up is Pete Alonso. guy known for that. So, what's his deal and where's he going to end up?
Yeah, the polar bear. He is another guy who you can rely on for 30 plus home runs year in and year out, and depending on your home park, maybe even more than that. Padres need pop. Mariners could use pop. Red Sox could use pop. The Mets could keep him around. Those teams all have openings that he could fill, first base, DH, what have you. But I kind of like the Texas Rangers to open up their wallets again. They had a really disappointing year this year, despite having some of the best pitching in baseball. The lineup just wasn't where it needed to be. And a big part of that was Jake Berger not coming through at first base. So they do have a need at first base. That lineup could be really, really good if you put Pete Alonso in there with Corey Seager and Wyatt Langford and, some of these other guys. I like that fit, and I think maybe like a 5-year deal or so for Pete Alonso.
Yeah, honestly, the Nationals would be, or the Rangers would be pretty cool. I like the idea of, I think that there will be a market for him just because, as we've talked about, there is just always a need for guys who can hit a lot of home runs. I'm just curious to see because, we kind of had this happen last year, though, and a lot of people were surprised at how little of a market there was for him.
No
and maybe things
this year, so it's a little easier.
So it opens up a bit, but also a year older. Not that means too much, but it's still it's interesting when we look at that and just think about there was clearly some hesitations because qualifying offer or not, if a player is good, teams are going to want to get him on their team. And so I don't know. I think it's interesting, but there is a team who took a swing and kind of missed with their first baseman in the Nationals. And I think that, another situation where you can get a guy at a position where you don't need him to be the superstar everything, but you just want a guy who can play first, hit bombs, right? Like he's going to hit somewhere in the top 4. And they've got such a young core of guys. Like, could he not have some form of insight or knowledge that he could offer? Like, I like the fit there. I think it would look cool. And I'd love to see him in the lineup with the young kids in Washington.
All righty. So Pete Alonso, we have the Rangers and the Nationals. And then just to go back to number 8 as well, Imanaga, we had the Mets and the Blue Jays. Okay, let's go back to pitching. Ranger Suarez is up next.
Am I taking Suarez?
Yeah. This you.
Yeah, sorry. Ranger Suarez, another lefty pitcher. Another guy hitting the market. I think there is just inherent value to being a lefty pitcher. And then it really helps that he's also really good at pitching. So there is going to be quite the market for him. I wouldn't be shocked if he had a bigger market than even guys like Shota Imanaga and some other guys. Like I just think the pedigree is a little bit bigger for him. Despite some of the other things. But I think Ranger Suarez is, I will say this. I went away from just predicting that he would stay with the Phillies because it felt wrong to predict the Phillies to retain every single free agent that they have, even though I kind of wouldn't be shocked if that's the way the chips fell. And so I thought about, what team could use another pitcher in their rotation. They've already had success with a strong lefty. And I thought, the Tigers, man, like they kind of didn't have a lot going for them after Skubal. They were able to throw together a couple pieces, but if you were to give like a true 1-2 punch at the top of that lineup, I think that really solidifies them as being a scary playoff contender. and not just a Scooble merchant who can ride off of pitching him every 3 days. Yeah, I think that he'd be a great fit there. I don't know if they're willing to go out and spend big dollars. I don't have as much knowledge on like the true intentions of every MLB team, but I think that he'd be cool in Detroit. I think it fits the vibe I think of.
Yeah, and the Tigers absolutely are a team that could spend. They were one of the top spenders back in the day when they had Miguel Cabrera and Prince Fielder and those guys. And, you know, the team has showed them a window to start doing that again. For Ranger Suarez, it's similar to Imanaga. You know, he's a reliable left-handed starter. The thing about Suarez that is like a little bit of a turnoff is that he has never pitched more than 157 innings, which he did this past season, which means he's never even qualified for the ERA title, which, you know, take that for what it's worth. But like, if you're really looking for that workhorse at the front of your rotation, I don't know if you can necessarily count on Ranger Suarez being that guy. But he is a great complementary piece and someone you would definitely want on a playoff rotation. He has shown up in the playoffs for the Phillies every year. But I think the Phillies could absolutely retain him. I think the Yankees could be in on a guy like this. I could see, similar to what I was saying about Imanaga, I could see the Angels hopping in here. But I think, you know, very similar to all of Matt's reasons for Imanaga, I think the Blue Jays will hop in. They're losing Scherzer, they're losing Bassett, potentially both to free agency. Gossman only has 1 more year left. They've got you Savage, who looks really good, but they could use another arm, and Ranger Suarez could be a guy that they pay.
All right. I like that. He's definitely, he's got the October, resume going for him. Teams that think that might be there might want him big time. So you can see that for both of your reasons. So that's the Blue Jays and the Tigers for Suarez. Keep it going with the pitching. Next guy up is Dylan Cease.
Yeah, we'll try to burn through these last 5 a little quicker. Dylan Cease, I know he didn't have the best surface numbers this past year, but under the hood, there's still a lot of good things there that teams like. I wouldn't be surprised if he made more money than any of the other pitchers we've mentioned so far. I'm not saying that's a given, but it wouldn't shock me. I could see the Braves, I could see the Red Sox, I could see the Giants, I could see the Astros all being in on Dylan Cease, plenty of other teams as well. But I kind of think the Cubs he'll be the big splash for them. I don't think they'll retain Kyle Tucker. They're already letting Imanaga go, it seems. I think they want someone who has the potential to be at the top of their rotation, and Cease is that kind of guy. We've seen it in the past. And I think a lot of teams think he can still be that guy for them. So I think the Cubs make sense, and they end up with Dylan Cease.
Yeah, I can't lie. Even like he kind of looks like a Chicago Cub, like just like looking at him. Maybe I'm remembering him wrong, but it feels like he's got a little bit of that Jake Arrieta in him. But Cubs, that's an interesting line. I have them going to the Orioles. All of last offseason we talked about what's the one thing that the Orioles needed. They needed to make some sort of a move for starting pitching, and they didn't, and it bit them in the ass. And, they are lucky. They are lucky that they were able to get somebody, was it Trevor Rogers, who ended up actually pitching fairly well for them this year. And that's not something that I think that they can just like outright rely on. I think that they need to bring in someone who can actually be an ace and potentially be that, like you were saying for the Cubs, top of the rotation guy. They are a young team. They should have money to spend. And I mean, they have every piece there to be a contending team if they were to get some pitching. So, like you said, I agree. I think under the hood, there's a lot of things that were still really good from his performance last year. It didn't come together the way he probably would have wanted or Padres fans would have wanted. But I think that the Orioles would be able to make a really good push for him. And he gets another shot to be the guy somewhere.
All right, there you go. So for Dylan Cease, we have the Cubs and we have the Orioles. All right, so next guy up, pitcher's best friend, JT Realmuto.
Yeah, so JT Realmuto is not the guy he once was. And at the end of the day, he still is a player who holds inherent value because of the skill set he brings at the position he plays. He is a catcher who is above average pretty much across the board in offense, and he can still gun a guy out. He's still a decent catcher. His framing isn't great in terms of the rankings, across the league, but at the end of the day, it's a catcher, and catchers are always inherently valuable. I feel like catchers and pitchers, no team will ever be disinterested in getting a good catcher or good pitching. And so he could fit in a lot of places. And I didn't take Ranger Suarez going back to the Phillies because I didn't want to be boring. I don't see the Phillies letting him go. Like, I don't know who they'd have behind him to take over, but with the window in Philadelphia still being at least cracked, I don't think that they'd be willing to let go of a guy like that in this type of, last year or two of a window being there.
Yeah, I think the Phillies really want to keep him. I think they absolutely could keep him. But I went a little, I went to the field for my pick, and I chose the Washington Nationals, and you picked them for Pete Alonso. A lot of similar reasons, like they could use a veteran over there. They could use a guy who's kind of been there, done that. They haven't gotten good production from the catching position. They've got a young pitching staff that, a veteran catcher like Realmuto could really do a lot of good over there. So I think if it becomes a bidding war and the Phillies have to retain Schwarber and maybe Ranger Suarez or, whatever else they do, I think Realmuto could be out the door, and I think the Nationals are a fit.
All right. So therefore, Realmuto, we have the Nationals and the Phillies. Next guy up, a guy who's bounced around quite a bit in the last couple of years, Eugenio Suarez.
Yeah, this is another guy, maybe behind Kyle Schwarber, the most reliable pop in free agency. He hits a lot of home runs. He plays good enough third base to be considered a third baseman in free agency. He's really going to be, I think, the consolation prize for teams who don't get Bregman and don't get Beau Bichette. So, that's going to be kind of a carousel where we have to see where those guys fall before we see Suarez sign. But I think we could see a reunion with the Detroit Tigers. That's the team he came up with originally way back in the day. They could use more pop. They could use a third baseman. I think they will want to spend. I think maybe they went out on Bregman or Bichette, and they will pivot, and Suarez will be donning the Old English D on his cap.
Yeah, I have Suarez going back to the Tigers as well. I just think there's a lot about that makes sense. And, at the end of the day, I think he seems like he might be in a place just because of how much he's had to move. Maybe he just wants to pick a home right now. Like, legit, he might just want to pick a team and stick to it. And I think he'll get a solid offer from a team like the Tigers, who, like you said, they need more production from the third base spot. They need more production in terms of power, slugging, and home runs. And yeah, that was a huge part of their team that kind of went missing in the playoffs, as it felt like they, like many teams this year, which is kind of weird to think about, they were really relying on these like power friendship type innings, and sometimes the friendship just runs out. So, a guy like him definitely, I think, provides a lot of value where he might not provide as much value to other teams.
All right. So Gino Suarez goes back to the Tigers. We love a reunion story. I'd love for that to be the case, especially when it's OG reunions. We'd like to see that. Okay. Back to the mound for these last two. So we'll start with someone who comes into the mound late in the game. Edwin Díaz is up next.
Yeah, I believe this is our first relief pitcher. I believe this is our first bullpen guy, which means inherently I might not have much to say. I think he's going to be a Dodger. I think the Dodgers are going to throw all of their money at the bullpen guys in free agency and see which ones decide to come and hang out. They did that this past season, and it didn't work out. And I think they're just going to do that because they can't do. I don't think they're going to want to try and do what they just did again. Right? I don't think they want to have Clayton Kershaw warming up in clutch moments of the playoffs. I think they're going to want to have Roki Sasaki in the rotation, not in the bullpen. I think, they're hoping Tanner Scott can turn it around, but go out, get your closer. This is him. Don't lose all of those games. I mean, if Tanner Scott and Blake Trinan were the 1-2 guys trying to close games this season, the Dodgers season looks a lot different in terms of their win-loss total. And I don't think people realize quite how many games they lost due to those two guys at the end of that bullpen. So, yeah, I mean, this is the first reliever. He's going to get a Blake check from the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think all 30 teams could use a bullpen upgrade. So Diaz should have plenty of suitors. I think the Mets will want to keep him. I think, the Cubs, the Braves, the Padres even might get a little rich for these teams. But, yeah, I kind of think the Dodgers are going to go after bullpen, and I think they'll get the biggest fish, and I think Edwin Díaz is that biggest fish. And that doesn't mean he's going to be good because bullpen arms are notoriously volatile and can be amazing one year and terrible the next, and it's just kind of the way it goes. And we saw it with Tanner Scott, we saw it with Kirby Yates for the Dodgers this year. So, we'll see what happens, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Edwin Díaz is closing games in Dodger blue.
Yep, no surprise there. No surprise there. I think it would be it makes a lot of sense for the Dodgers to be after this guy. Bring the trumpets to Southern California. Let's bring them back. Let's have another season like that, and let's bring them all back. Okay, last guy for us for our free agent preview here, Michael King, another pitcher, and let's take it on Michael King.
Yeah, another Padres pitcher, and I want to say there's plenty of other free agents that we're not talking about, and
true,
that's due to limited time, but maybe we'll get our thoughts out there somehow with try to do some shorts or things like that. But Michael King, he was in the Juan Soto trade, came back to the Padres in 2024, had a great season as his first full season as a starting pitcher, but then this year he was only able to make half as many starts due to injury. And he has the qualifying offer attached, as do several of the other guys above. But he, because of the injury and because of the lack of a long track record, I don't necessarily see the most robust market for him. And I could see him looking for something of a prove-it deal, either a 1-year contract or like a 3-year contract with an opt-out after each year or something like that. I could also see him just taking the qualifying offer from the Padres and sticking around and that being his prove-it deal. But I kind of think either way, teams are going to be a little nervous about the qualifying offer, and I think the Padres have the inside track. They need guys who can throw innings for them. They're losing potentially him and Cease. Darvish is out for the year. They could just use some pitching reinforcements. So I think Michael King makes a lot of sense for the Padres, and he'll be back.
Yeah, I think Michael King is 100% going to be the Padres' number one priority. Not saying that he's going to get, the bag from us, but at the same time, We gave him the qualifying offer for a reason, meaning we're willing to at least give him that much. And I wouldn't be shocked, like you said, if we offer him an alternative shorter term deal that has different, opt outs and things. But I definitely think the Padres are the team he'll end up being with just because of the injuries. I really do believe it's just the injuries, knowing that, when he plays, like, I think anyone who watched enough Padres baseball the past 2 years would say, like, hey, this guy's got something. Like, when he's rolling, he's rolling. He looks really good. And if he could kind of put together a whole season and, prove that he's healthy, he'll get another year with Niebla, who's kind of been this guy who's unlocked this part of him. I just think there's a lot of benefit to be had for both sides here. In a short-term deal. So I think he's coming back to the Padres.
All right. So that is both
He'll be the
of you
top
on
of
the
our rotation. I mean, he'll be the ace.
Yeah, and it'd be a tough loss for sure for the Padres if somehow he gets, stolen from under them. Especially, they're in a situation right now where they feel like they have a pretty good, chance at it. Okay, so that is both of you on the Padres for King. So, all right, cool. Well, that is, just the first little bit of our free agent preview. Wanted to hit the very, the cream of the crop here, the very top of the list as this offseason goes on and those guys sign and guys are left, to sign. Well, hopefully we'll get to some other guys for sure. But that'll do for today on free agents. But last thing that we have to do before we head out is Dingers and Stingers. So if you're not familiar, this is our segment where we'll give you a good thing, a dinger, and a bad thing, a stinger from the world of sports from both of you. So let's start with the bad. Let's start with our stingers, and let's start with Matt.
Yeah, my stinger is I read a whole report this week saying the Rams Seahawks game is, quote, not able to get flexed to primetime. If this game isn't primetime worthy and isn't able to be flexed into a primetime spot, I don't know what is. I don't know why they would tease us with being able to flex games at this point. Because what's stopping you? I mean, you're a rich league. You make more money than like any other sports league. Buy new plane tickets. This should be prime time. We've seen the last few primetime games. They've been bad. Give me Rams, Seahawks in primetime.
Counterpoint? No. Keep it where. Put it at 10. Put it at 6 a.m. I don't care. Don't put it at 7:30.
Send us to London.
Go to London instead. Just don't. I don't want anybody's eyes on that in case anything goes wrong. I like the image the nation has of Seattle right now. I love the image they've gotten from Sunday night, Monday night, and Thursday night that they played. I like that. So let's keep it there. Okay, stinger from Drew, if you would.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Red Sox for both my dinger and my stinger this week. My stinger is that the GM meetings are this weekend, which I don't exactly know what that means. We just get a lot of press conferences and things like that. Not really any substantive news, but Chaim Bloom is now the Cardinals president of baseball ops or whatever they call it. And he got interviewed about his Red Sox time, and he got not super candid, but slightly more candid than we've seen, specifically regarding trading Mookie Betts. And he basically admitted that it wasn't about talent, it was about where the organization was at. And it's just we all knew that obviously, but to hear it from the horse's mouth, it's just very disheartening. Obviously, it's been a long time. We're in a different place, both organizations, blah, blah, blah. But at the time when it was where, quote unquote, the organization was at, we had just had one of the most dominant seasons ever, and then a World Series hangover. That was it. It wasn't like we were this wandering team in the desert that needed a fresh start. It was just that they wanted to be cheap for a little while, and it's a real big bummer. I'll never get over that trade. Even if the Red Sox win 10 more World Series before the Dodgers win another one, it's still not worth it. Like, it was just horrible. So just to rehash that and get some proof that, what we always thought was the case was a bummer.
Yeah. The first of the 2020 scars that just, will remain with us, for one reason or another.
The biggest.
Yeah, certainly nothing else could compare. Yeah, no question. And he'll get asked about that forever. And so you'll continue to have to hear about it forever, unfortunately. Okay, but let's end with the good and let's talk dingers. So let's go back to Matt and what's good for this week. Literally, what's good?
What's good this week is the NFL's best showman is back. Jameis Winston, hopefully catching eating dubs. I couldn't be more excited. His introductory, press conference, he started singing Hamilton at the podium. You can't, like, I saw Sleeper tweeted about him and all the caption just said, one of one. Like, that is Jameis Winston, just one of one. There is nobody like him. I don't care if he throws 100 interceptions or 100 touchdowns. I will love and cherish every game this man plays until he retires. And the fact that he gets to do it in the aftermath of yet another coach firing and quarterback, that he fills in, it's beautiful. He really just comes into the biggest shit shows in NFL and makes us laugh. Like, he is the joy in the grief for a lot of NFL teams.
Yeah, 100%. It doesn't matter.
It's likely he could get 100 touchdowns and 100 interceptions. You don't have to settle for one or the other.
Yeah, he might go for both.
Yeah. In the NFL, it just doesn't matter. Sometimes for a team that's where the Giants are right now, they know they're not going to win a ton of games. Just don't be boring or dumb about it while you're doing it. And this is a chance for them to not be boring about it. And it'll be really nice to see them. And for the record, I do think he gives them a better chance to win the average NFL game than Russell Wilson does. I do think that. And so it is also
I noticed you prefaced that with the word average.
Yeah, like like the just any old game. Like, I think he gives them the better chance to win, for sure. Any old NFL game, but yeah. So hard lessons, but definitely it's going to be fun for them. Have a lot of fun with it. All right, Drew, Dinger, what do you think is good in the world of sports this week?
Yeah, it's less of an event so much as it is a reminder. But the awards were announced this week, and Roman Anthony got third in Rookie of the Year. Garrett Crochet got second in Cy Young. Roman Anthony is super young. Garrett Crochet is really young for what he's accomplished. I am just so grateful that both of them have long-term contract extensions in place with the Boston Red Sox, because if either of them didn't, it would be scary times right now of how much money are they going to get? Are they going to take it from us before they get to free agency? If not, what do we do? I don't want to go through this again. And so I'm really glad that for at least these two guys, I don't have to.
Yes, it's such a good feeling. It's like it's on with these guys for a long time, and they are going to be here, and it's going to be all right. And you don't have to worry about that mess for a little while. Always a good feeling. Always a good feeling. Okay, so that'll do it for this week's MLB episode of Dingers and Stingers. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Make sure to follow us here on YouTube. Subscribe here so you don't miss any of our uploads. Hit us in the comments with some thoughts on free agents. We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts, predictions on where they end up. Let us know your dinger and your stinger from the week if you've got one. Follow us on Instagram at Dingers and Stingers. Listen to us on Spotify. You can find our show there. So check us out in our audio only format if you'd like as well. Hit all the good buttons over there and hit all the good buttons on YouTube. And, until next week, we will see you then, and goodbye.